To the organizers, thank you for this opportunity. It really means a lot. I'm happy to be here. My task is to speak about tracing language evolution. What I love about this topic is that the organizers were not specific, and I realized that we are all African here. So initially I was like, English evolution? I was like, no, we are African, so I'm not going to focus on that. So that worked in my favor. So I'll be talking about language evolution generally, you know, considering the South African languages. I don't want this to be a very formal presentation. So I'm going to start with warmer questions. There's a list of questions on the screen. The first one, Black is already answered. It's about language evolution. The question says, what is language evolution? I'm just going to give the answer to that, and then the rest of the questions, with the person sitting next to you, just going to have a conversation. You pick and choose one or two questions, maybe one, and then you speak for a minute, and then another one, you take turns, so that we can just have a conversation about this. So Black did indicate that language is not static, language is not fixed, language is dynamic, language is always changing, just like identity. So it's not something that we should worry about when it changes. It's a normal process. It changes over time. It changes with the different generations. It changes with the different communities. So yeah, that is my answer, because I have no one sitting next to me to have a conversation with. So so just for 2 minutes, you can just pick one question and then say, this is the question that I like, and then this is my response, and have a conversation. And I'm just going to give you that opportunity to talk to the person sitting next to you. The second question is, who changes this language? If we're talking about evolution, we're speaking about change. So who does the changing? Is it the lexicographers? Is it the people that write the dictionaries that come and say, hey, this is how we speak, these are the new words, and so on? And then why do we have to change it? Why does it change? Should we save the language? Is it important for us to maintain this language? There are a lot of languages that are dying. There are a lot of endangered languages. Is it our responsibility? Should we change these languages? Another question is proper English still a real thing? I think Nosan is concerned about that. She's been asking, how is academic writing going to look like in the future? I'm also as curious. And then the last one, when last did you learn a new word from a student or a young person? Black, right now. Taught us a number of words. So yeah, go ahead, have a conversation for 2 minutes with the person sitting next to you. How the conversation went, which question did you respond to? You can just put your hand up and just share. I'm not going to do cold calling, my students hate it. Yeah, that's an answer.
So we talked about, sorry, should we save the language?
Yeah.
And basically, who changes the language or why does it change?
Yeah.
And so we asked, if you want to save a language, what language is it that you are saving? Which form of English, for example, is it that you want to save? Because the English that you want to save today is not the English that's going to be spoken a year or 5 years or 10 years from now. So what does saving the language really mean? And what language are you talking about?
Exactly. All right. It looks like you guys had a beautiful discussion. That's why I said I love the topic, because it didn't specify. I think you and I here, we understand language in the South African context. We have our own language. Ayoba, Nazo, Eta, Wachi. You get it, right? Yeah. So the questions were for you, not for me. I'm going to continue the presentation. All right. As speakers of language, we find that when language evolves, you evolve the way you speak as an individual, and then your speech community also evolves the way they speak. So as an individual, it could be because you are well-traveled, you come back and you say, oh, a barbecue, and we look at you like, it's a braai. You understand? That is showing us that it's part of your identity that, I've been somewhere else where this braai thing is called barbecue. You understand? You come back, you're like, where's the trash can? Dustbin. You understand? It's dustbin. Why are you using those words? So you as an individual, you are evolving. We're still on the topic of language evolution. So the way you speak evolves with time, evolves with the different experiences. Sometimes you get married, interracial relationships. That changes the way you speak as an individual. You have children. That's going to change how you address your children, how you speak with your children, because you are trying to accommodate both your languages as parents, and then a new language is formed somehow. Even if it's the English language, but it's a different version. We have something called different Englishes. A lot of people tend to think that it's English. No, it's different Englishes. We have English here in South Africa, we have English in the UK, English in America, and in South Africa we have English from the colored culture, we have English from the black culture, from the Indian culture, and so on. So there's different types of Englishes. And then sometimes it's with education. There are parents that actually prefer to pay a lot of money to take their children to higher quintile schools because they want the accent. You understand? They want the articulation and so on. But unfortunately, other parents cannot afford to take their children to such schools. And then we can see the distinction between a quintile 1 student, a private school student, and a public school student in the way they express themselves. And then that shows you that language plays a role in defining an individual. And then we have age, which is a big factor. I went to my Facebook wall the other day, and I found myself cringing. I found myself cringing. The before is letter B with numerical 4. I would never at this age write like that. I see you was the letter I, the letter C, and the letter U. I would never write like that. But it was cool then. It was so nice. I loved it. It excited me because the term SMS was new, and we felt that we need to shorten these words. We need to shorten these messages. So why should you write something so lengthy? But with time, as I grew, I realized that I can't be writing like this. I'm an adult, so I need to write a certain way. So that's the role that language plays to an individual. It shows that language is always changing depending on the experience of the individual. And then in terms of community, we have the social status. There's a status or status.
No, we're South African, it's status.
It is status. It is status. I agree with you. Then we have the social status. Then you can tell that, oh, okay, fine. This one is from the upper class, and this one is from the middle class. This one is from whichever class. So that tells you, okay, this person is coming from this kind of community. And then we have social media. Social media has different communities. To be very honest, when I get on TikTok, I do not understand most of the things that the Gen Zs are saying. The only one that I understand is Nikona. They are recruiting now South Africans. Here's a post, come and comment on this post. But there is a way in which they speak that I do not understand at this age. And then we have cultural background. So let's not forget that when we speak about language, we need to mention non-verbal communication. I'm a vendor speaker. So growing up, when I have to greet an adult, I have to put my knees on the floor and do it that way, because it's how we're supposed to communicate non-verbally, so to show respect. But with age, I decided my knees are not touching the floor anymore, and then I left them halfway. So I'm like, now I'm an adult, and it's a pity that I'm not receiving that from the young ones, because I did it a lot. My knees were so black and so dark. But it was like that. When I have to give my parents food, I have to kneel down all the way with the tray. Hard labor, but anyways, we are happy that we are evolving, we are transitioning, we are moving, because that is life. All right. So those are some of the things that you need to consider when you speak about language evolution. Language evolves at a level of an individual. It also evolves at a community level. So really try not to make this presentation very technical or very scholarly, your et al. And the difficult authors' names or scholar names. It gets very complicated. So it's a very relaxed space. So we speak about influences, the way we speak. It's an influence. You're not born into this system alone. In order for you to say certain things, it's because you learned them from someone. Now I can say demure. Who influenced that? Okay, we have the American culture influenced my generation a lot. Saying "dope, cool, what's up?" It was an Indian thing. And why? Because we're trying to fit into a certain culture, and we think that it's cool. It's a cool culture, so why not? So the influence. So the way we speak is influenced by different factors, such as other cultures, other countries, and so on. And then we have language attitudes. Depending on the attitude that you have, to your language or to another person's language, that influences the evolution of a language. Coming to the Free State as a Tshivenda speaker, there aren't a lot of Tshivenda speakers. And now my Sotho friends always say, hey, Muvenda, uchomile, meaning that, oh, you are starting with your Venda, and it comes from love, I do understand. But because they literally do not hear anything. If somebody was to speak Greek right now, trust me, you are just going to walk out and like, I don't have time for this. So I feel like that's how I sound when I speak my Tshivenda. So the attitude that they have, it's not so negative, but it really gets to a point where I find myself shifting from my language to their language so that I can be accommodated, because it's hard labor. Having them to try, having to explain myself, having to translate, having to say this is what I mean, and you can't do that for each and every word, because obviously they do not understand. Even if it's a three-word sentence, it's still going to be a struggle. So I find myself having to shift. You find yourself having to shift, and in that way, your speech is evolving. All right. Recently, I got a paper to review. It's in Tshivenda. I'm still working on it, and then I was like, let me give it a try. Because my Tshivenda is deteriorated since I've been here and since I've moved around a lot. So I'm like, let me just give it a try. Oh my God, just the first sentence, I was already feeling like I'm reading Greek or something. It was hard, it was difficult, because I haven't been interacting with Tshivenda in that way, you understand? So then, as you shift from your language, it's at a risk because it's silenced, it becomes silent. My language here is almost silent, unless if I interact with a Tshivenda speaker, but it's almost silent. And then if it's almost silent or it is silent, then it's my responsibility. Do I maintain it or do I not? Do I preserve my language or do I not? Okay? Now, I know Xhosa people, they love their language. They will insist, speaking Xhosa all the time. And it's a battle here with the Sothos. So you find that they're multilingual, they're switching now. 2 minutes is Xhosa, 2 minutes is Sotho, like, hey, and they're trying to show you that I'm bilingual. I do speak Xhosa, I do speak Sotho, and so on. So there's a level of maintaining when you do that, because they're still trying to fight for their identity that I may be here, but I'm from somewhere else. And then we have something called language endangerment. There are languages that are endangered. We know the Khoisan's language, it is endangered. And why are they endangered? Because the population there they are of a minority, and it's a struggle for them to preserve their language. The government is trying. They do have a station on SABC, but is it enough, for them to preserve their language? And then sometimes language gets to a point of extinction. Sometimes a language does die. I didn't include examples of dead languages, but they are there. They do become extinct. Why? Because they are not maintained. Why? Because at some point when they were endangered, nobody tried to save them. The case right now is that here in South Africa, the education system is really trying so much to save our African languages through pedagogies such as translanguaging, where they say in the English classroom, which is not something that I like, in the English classroom you can actually teach in English and get students to speak in their home language, and then when they give you feedback, then they can speak in English. So it's that process. I think it can work in other classes, but in an English classroom, I feel like let's stick to English. If you advocate for translanguaging, I'm really sorry, honey. But yeah, I do not advocate for that. So yeah, so these are some of the concepts that you'll find in the scholarship of language evolution and so on. And then there are factors that contribute to language evolution, why a language is changing. The economic strength and function. At this point, we know that we all want to speak English, and we want to speak it so well because we will get opportunities not only in South Africa, even beyond South Africa. You can go abroad. So recently I attended a conference, and then this lady is a Xhosa speaker. She's a doctor, and then she can only speak Xhosa. Everything else that she does it in Xhosa. It was very impressive, but can she go beyond South Africa? Can she go outside South Africa? So by default, we have this, we have English forcing us to learn it in a way. Because if you really want to expand and if you really want your work to be recognized, then English is the language. And then another factor is internal linguistic change. Sometimes it's very natural. The change that takes place in your language is very natural, that you do not notice it. It's not deliberate. You do not sit down and say, this is how I'm going to speak, or this is the choice that I make, and so on in most cases. So it happens due to shift. The way I speak, trust me, I think my Tshivenda is very good until I get to Venda, and then they're not impressed. You know, in other cases we abandon our language. Just in our case, the people that came to the Free State for work, because we're trying to fit in. Otherwise, we are not going to survive. And then we have generational differences, because you guys, you want to confuse the enemy, right? You don't want us to understand what you are talking about. And now that I'm an adult, I'm speaking like an adult, but I know when I was younger, there were certain things, that I would say, and I would say in front of my mom with my friends, but my mom would not even understand. And now I'm in that position, and it's not nice. It's really not nice. Some of the words that you say are very confusing, and we are struggling to keep up. We are struggling. And then we have code switching, just to ease communication. If maybe you are coming here, you are learning a new language, it's going to take a process. So in other cases, you find yourself switching codes from one language to another, so that the communication can just be eased. All right, something scholarly here. Fishman said, Fishman assessed the evolution of language, or something called language shift. And then I'm not going to go through all the stages. Fisherman looked at 8 stages, talking about the level in which these languages are, with stage 8 saying that this is a language that is spoken by grandparents and it is about to die. We see the case when we take our children home for holidays. The grandparents continue the African languages, and the younger generation continues with whatever language that they speak. So that is putting that language at a risk, because it's only the grandparents that can speak the language. And then stage 7 there, we have, let's say, younger parents that speak the language, but they do not transmit it to their children, because they prefer their children to speak whatever language that they want them to speak. English, for example, what's the point of me speaking isiZulu with my child? It's not going to be useful in the future, so they're comfortable with that. So there are other stages in between. I'm just going to go to the last 2 there at the bottom, the first stage. So we have the language that is used in mass media, at work, in government, and and at nationwide. We know that's the English language, all right? And we know that is the power. Can I say that? It is the language of power. Every language is powerful, but every language is powerful. But we know that is the language that is governing us more than any other language. So it's not at a risk. It's not endangered. It's not at a risk. We are all trying to speak English. So that was Fisherman's stages for assessing language evolution or language shift. And then the other people that say, let's reverse this shift, let's preserve these languages, let's do something about these languages, okay? But I always ask myself, do we really want to? Or is it you, Crystal, in 2000 that said, let's do something? And then Crystal says, if speakers increase the prestige of a language, how do they do that? Then the language will be preserved. But in this case, I just want you to think about this, which language, is being preserved at this point more than any other language. Which language is more prestigious than the other? So I know with DBE, they're really trying to integrate the African languages into the curriculum. They're trying their best. But in most cases, the quality of the language, it's very diluted, because you find a Sesotho speaker teaching isiZulu. You find an English speaker teaching Afrikaans. And it doesn't mean that we have this assumption that English speakers are good in Afrikaans or Afrikaans speakers are good in English. So it really compromises the quality. And then the language must have a strong presence in the education system. The language must be in written form. So, on Google, it does give you an option to Google using different languages and so on. So it must be written in order for us to preserve this language. But who's going to be reading in that language? Those are the questions that really worry me. And then it must also be available in electronic technology. The Zulus, I feel like, are doing a great job in this regard, because on social media, AmaZulu, they comment in isiZulu. If I go there and comment in Tshivenda, you know what, it's just going to be something else. And then, people hop in on TikTok, and then everyone else then starts commenting in isiZulu. Like I said, they call you on TikTok, like, Nikona na. And then everyone comes and says, hello. So it's comments that you find on TikTok, and you're like, this is a Chinese post. This post is from the Middle East. This post is from America, but the South Africans that are commenting on that post, hey, bo. All right. So, I think, can I still continue? Sorry. I do talk a lot. So, language and identity. So, language is a marker of identity. You know, when you speak about yourself, you cannot speak about yourself without mentioning your language. You tell us where you are coming from, and that just tells us who you are. So it reflects who we are. It reflects where we come from. And then there are people that are multilingual. There are people that are bilingual that identify. They identify more than one language, and that is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And that influences the way they speak and the way their language evolves over time. And then it helps us redefine ourselves. You know, the well-traveled ones, they will tell you when they come back to South Africa, they start training, they speak a certain way, So now we know, you've been abroad and something like that. And then we have multilinguals. Language is a beautiful thing. Language is a beautiful thing. And then, I think Black did mention that language is not static, but a living symbol of identity. The way I speak right now is not the way I used to speak when I was in primary school, high school, university, and in the work. I think I wouldn't speak like this during faculty meeting or something like that. I would compose myself. I would have a certain way. I would sound academic, right? So your identity changes over time. This platform dictates how I communicate. The platform at work dictates how I communicate. My friends dictate how I communicate. It's going to be a very chill space, vibey, and all of that. So that is language, and that's how it evolves. And then we touched on Sipitori. The discussion touched on Sipitori. Sipitori, this links to the point of identity. Sipitori or Pretorians love their Sipitori. It's a part of their identity. And how was it formed? There's a township called Soshanguve. I learned just before I left Soshanguve. I lived there for about 10 years. And then it stands for Sotho Shangani Nguni Venda. In Soshanguve, for example, they integrated all these different languages to form Sipitori. Which I love Sipitori because it does have a strong presence of Setswana and Sepedi, but it still accommodates, different languages. The dance that they do, I don't know if you know the dance that they do with one leg and the other part of their body. And it's when I look at that, should I do it?
Do it.
Yes.
Do it.
So I think it's something like this, and then they go. So when I look at that dance, it's influenced by the Tsonga dance, the Shibelani dance, because they play with their waist, but the Pretorians own it. And then there's this thing that people say about Pretoria, that it's a country on its own. Trust me, I've lived there. It's a very nice day. It is a country. It qualifies. I am done now. That was supposed to be an emoji. It's giving change. It's a catchphrase. I don't know if you guys call it a catchphrase. I'm really struggling, but it's giving change. It's evolution. No two speakers of a language speak the same. They do not articulate themselves the same. You can be an English speaker, but you do not speak like your mother, because your mother is still carrying culture, vocabulary from the past. Right now, I always thought I was very young until I met the youngsters here. I thought I was cool, but no, I am confused. The enemy is confused, trust me. All right, the evolution of language is inevitable. We cannot avoid it. We cannot fight it. It's almost natural. It's almost natural. So I personally believe that we should embrace change. Just like identity, language changes from time to time. But there are other people that still are advocating for preservation of these languages, maintenance of these languages, and all of that. So the learning of a language is never an ending process. So do not worry. If you're invested in understanding their language, you can just do that and fit in, because some of us don't want to grow old, right? So you wanna, when you mingle with them, you're like, I'm cringing, I got you, my nigga, my guy, And then finally, the main thing is communicative achievement is key, regardless of what language you're speaking. Make sure that you are understood, make sure that you are heard, make sure that you are making sense. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for this platform.
Thank you.
Are there people who
are very rigid, you know, that they respect a language so much that it's either they own that they're gonna, I know as Xhosas we don't negotiate, but I would like to believe that my accent won't change wherever I go, but I would like to learn that language very well.
Yeah.
Is there a term for something like that?
Language purist is the term.
Is it?
Yeah. Because you can go to America and still, that's why I say it's communicative achievement is key. It's not the twanging, because to be very honest, I struggle to understand the UK accent. It gets very difficult for me. I have to be glued on the screen. There must be subtitles. It's very hard, you know. In it. And what's in it? It's in it. You know, I think they're trying to, isn't it, or something like that. In it. You know. You know. So it's really also a subjective thing. You decide, you know, some people feel like, you know what, I've lived here for a very long time, so when I go back home, people need to recognize that. But some people are very rooted, that they still want to preserve their accent and so on. So
That comes to mind.
Yeah.
So it definitely comes to mind.
Yeah.
Question. Just a comment, you know? When I went to UK in London, and I went for my son's graduation, I couldn't hear people speaking English, and I thought maybe I was deaf or something. Because now, when I came back, I had to go to the audiologist to test my ears because I couldn't hear. So my son now had to be my interpreter to. I said, they talked, but I didn't hear what were they saying. It was so bad. Yeah. But they were speaking English, and I thought I knew English.
Yeah. I agree with you. I did work abroad, and I was working with Americans and people from the UK. So you can imagine, I have one friend from the UK, the other one is American, the other one is from somewhere in Africa. They speak like me. Their THE is there. You can hear it. It's emphasized. The border gate, you know. so I like most of the time I would struggle to understand, especially the UK accent. It is the English, it's beautiful, it's fancy and all, but I do understand. I'm sorry that you had to go to the audiologist.
That's the part that kills me.
Yeah.